All right, for practice test 43, game 2. It looks like it's going to be an ordering game. All right, so a rowing team uses a boat with exactly 6 seats arranged in single file and numbered sequentially. So sequentially just means in order, 1 through 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From the front of the boat to the back of the boat. Oh, well, maybe this one would have been easier to do front to back, with the front being up here. So if you wanted to, you could also do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with this being the front and this being the back. I just always prefer doing my ordering games this way. And so 1 is going to be my front and 6 is going to be my back. All right, let's look at and then our 6 athletes are L, M, O, S, V, and Z. And then let's dive into the rules. So 1 says Miller's rows closer to the front than S. So we know that M is closer to the front than S. All right, 2. S row closer to the front than both L and V. So if I was going to write this, it would be simply that S is closer to the front than both L and V. But what's unique about this rule is we have a similarity between 1 and 2, with the S being here. So what I would actually do is I wouldn't have wrote rule number 2 out. I would have just connected it to my first rule already. So it's going to be V and L. So one thing that helps us here is we know that M is also not only in front of S, it's also in front of V and Z. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and erase rule number 2 actually. And I'm just going to make this rule number 1 and 2. And we have S before L and V. All right, rule number 3. V and Z each sit closer to the front than O. So we know that V and Z both sit closer to the front than O. So we have this V here, so what we need to be careful of is, all right, so we know that V is going to be before O, and we know that Z is before O. But what's important to know about these chain games is that if there's nothing to the left of it, so there's nothing to the left, that means that, so we only have 2 variables here that have nothing to the left, M and Z. That means that they could both be first. Another thing to pay attention to are those that have nothing to the right of it. So the only things that don't have anything to the right of it are L and O. So that means that they both could be in the last place as well. So that's just something to pay attention to. Another thing that's interesting about this one is that all 6 of our variables are used, so there's no floaters. So now knowing that, we can go ahead and dive right into our questions. All right, which of the following could be an accurate match of athletes to seats? Okay, so let's look at this first one. Could Miller be in seat 1? Yes, that's pretty easy for us to determine. Can it go VL at the end? No, because O has to be after V, so the first one is pretty easy to cross off. All right, can S be in seat 3? I think so. Can V be in seat 4? I think so. And can Z be in seat 5? Ooh, I don't like this one because I don't think we're going to have room for all of our letters. So if I were to draw this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we put S in 3, V in 4, oh, S in 3, V in 4, and Z in 5, we would have to put O in 6, but that leaves us nowhere to put L. So this one isn't going to work either. All right, for 6, it says M in 1. Well, that works. V in 3. Okay, that works so far, but if V is in 3, where does that mean S has to go in this diagram? Second. And then this one has L in seat 6. Ooh, I like this one because L doesn't have anything to the right of it, so it could go last. And where would our other two variables go? It would go Z, O. So this one works, but let's go ahead and try the rest of them out just in case you didn't catch that. All right, so D says L in seat 3, which if L is in 3, we know that S and M would come before it, so we would put those in 1 and 2. V in seat 4. Okay, cool. And then O in seat 5. Well, this does not work because we need to have Z before O. So we would cross this one off. And this one would not work. All right, then let's do E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Z in seat 2. Which if Z's in seat 2, pay attention here because what then has to be first? The only other one that can be first is M. So we automatically can just put M in number 1. V in seat 3, well, this already doesn't work because then we would have nowhere for S to go. So I would cross that one off and move on, and C would be our answer. All right, let's go on to number 2. If V rows at seat 5, then which of the following must be true? So this is a must be true question, so that means it has to happen no matter what. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to put V here. Oh no, I think I lost my whole diagram. Oh, I don't know where it went. That's not good. All right, well, hold with me for just 1 second while I quickly redraw that. So we have M is before S. S is before L and V. V and Z each are closer than O. Okay. So in question number 7, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If V sits in row 5, what must be true? Well, based on our diagram, if V is in 5, what has to come after V? O. So that's the only thing that we really can determine from this. So I would be looking at an answer that is V before O. Does M have to be in 1? No, because it could be M or Z. Does S have to be in 2? Nope, because it could go potentially Z, M, S. Does Z have to be in 3? Nope. Z could be clearly determined. Z could be first. Must it be true that L is in 4? Nope, because why couldn't L be in 5? But once we got to the bottom here, we see, oh, O is in 6. Yes, O must be in 6. So our answer is going to be E. All right, 8. If Lee's rows at seat 3, then each of the following could be true except. So this is a could be true question. So that means that 4 of our answer choices could happen and 1 could never happen. So we're looking for the one that could never happen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If L's row is seat 3, well, looking at our diagram, what must be true then? We know that M and S have to come first. And then we don't really know much more other than V and Z at some point have to come before O. So O is going to be here, but what we don't know is whether V or Z, which one of these is going to be here. All right, so could it be true that Z is immediately behind V? Yeah, because it could go just actually in this order. So I'll cross A off. Could it be true that O is immediately behind V? Yes, because we could switch these around here at the bottom or in the back end, and it could go Z, V, O. C, O is immediately behind Z. Yes, because we could just switch them back and it'd be V, Z, O. That could be true. D is V's row is immediately behind L. So could it go M, S, L, V? Yes, because then we could just finish it off. And then E, S row is immediately behind Z. Well, no, because no matter what, we can never have this S behind this Z. So that could never be true. And that's why for this one, E is our answer. All right, 9. Which one of the following cannot be true? So this means that it can never happen. Cannot be true means it can never happen. All right, so O's row is closer to the front than S. Can O ever be closer to the row than S? No, because if we look at our diagram, which I'll erase this to make it a little bit easier. If we look at our diagram, S always has to come before V, and V always has to come before O. So we never can have O coming before S. So if I was taking the test, I would select A here and just move on. But I will go through the other ones just for learning purposes. All right, B. Z's row is closer to the front than M. Yes, we already established this, that Z could be the first one because there's nothing to the left of Z, so it could absolutely go Z, M, and then continue on. For C, L is closer to the front than V. Yes, because we don't know the relationship between L and V. It could easily go L, S, L, V, or it could go S, V, L. Doesn't matter, so it's not that. D, S row is closer to the front than Z. That definitely can happen because it could go M, S, Z. So that's not true. And then E, V is closer to the front than L. This is back to this relationship right here. We don't know it, so it absolutely could go M, S, L, V, or it could maybe be M, S, V, L. Doesn't matter because we don't know which one comes first, which is why A is our answer. All right, we'll clean this up a little bit. Okay. Number 10. All right, so it says exactly how many different seats could be the seat occupied by Z. So we're looking for where all could Z go. So what is Z constrained by? The only constraint that Z has, there's 2, right? It's that it comes after S and it comes before O. So 4, 5, 6. Let's say that could Z ever go in seat 6? No, because there would be nowhere for O to go. So we know that Z cannot go in 6. Now the other constraint that Z has is it has to come behind M and S. Oh, sorry, no it doesn't. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. No, I just misread my diagram. Our rule is not that S is before. I'm sorry, if you're confused for a second, I just want to point this out. I thought this S was pointing to the Z, but really it's just pointing to the V. There is no relationship to anything to the left of Z. So there's no other constraints other than the fact that it can't be a number 6. So Z could go first, Z could go second, Z could go third, Z could go fourth, Z could go fifth. It doesn't matter. And so the number of different seats would be 5, which is D. All right, 6. If V's row is closer to the front than Z, so this is saying if V is closer to the front than Z, then which of the following must be true? So this is another must be true question, so this means it has to happen. Well, if V is closer to the front than Z, what do we know? Well, we know that O has to come afterwards. And we know at some point M and S has to be up here. But we don't really know where L is at. L could go anywhere between S and O. All right, so what must be true? M's row is immediately in front of S. Does that have to be true? Well, yeah, because what else could go here? It can't go M, LS, because that would break this rule that S has to come before L. Oh, so that must be true. So that's probably going to be our answer. But we'll go ahead and try the rest of them out. L's row is immediately in front of V. Must that be true? No, because maybe it's actually going to go MS VL. That doesn't work. See, Z is immediately in front of O. Does this have to be true? No. Why doesn't this one have to be true? This one's a little bit tricky. It's because this L could go there, right? It could absolutely go V, Z, L, O, and we just have M and S at the front. All right, rule number D, question number D. S row is immediately in front of L. Does this have to be true? No, because we could put the V in here. So that doesn't have to be true. And then lastly, S is immediately in front of V. Well, this is the same thing. It could go SL. So it's not E. And so our answer choice, again, is A. All right, last question. Oh, I don't want to erase my rules. Ooh, it looks like it's going to be a substitute question. Suppose the restriction that M's row is closer to the front than S. So we're so far talking about this rule right here, is replaced by the restriction that S's row is closer to the front than M. So we're saying, like, okay, what if we crossed this rule off and made it so that S's row is actually closer to the front than M? If the other two restrictions remain in effect, then each of the following could be an accurate matching of athletes to seats except. Okay, so remember, what were our other rules that we had to keep in mind? Well, we know that S has to be before L, and we know S has to be before V, and we know V has to be before O, and we know Z has to be in front of Z. So now the interesting thing is, we no longer know, does anything have to come after M? No, so that's kind of cool. And we know that the two that potentially could be first are only S and Z. And so this says each of the following could be an accurate matching. So it says could be an accurate matching except. So that means that 4 of these could be true, and one of them could never happen. So we're looking for the one that could never happen. So here it says, so let's go ahead and draw out our 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it says S is in seat 1, V is in seat 2, M is in seat 6. Could that happen? I think so, because we could fill in all the rest of our rules. All right, 2. S is in seat 1, V is in seat 3, O is in seat 5. All right, so if this were to happen, we would have to put, what would have to come last here? The only other thing so let's say it goes S and then Z, and then let's just say that L comes here, and then last would be M. That works, so it's not going to be B. All right, let's do another one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. S is in seat 3. L is in seat 4. And V is in seat 5. Well, we know that O has to come after V, so I'm going to put O here. But the problem that we run into is we have nowhere for M to go, because S now has to come after M, so this could not be true. So C is going to be our answer. But just to do the other two for practice, D, V is in seat 3, M is in seat 4, and L is in seat 5. If this were to happen, we would know that O would have to be last, and then it would just be S and Z up here either way. It wouldn't matter. And then for E, V is in seat 4, M is in seat 5, O is in seat 6. We would put S first, and then the last two that we have would be L and Z, and it wouldn't matter where those two went. And that's why our answer would be C. All right, I hope you all found this one helpful.